Hello everyone, I'm MTGNerdGirl, and today we're going to be talking about Arena Championship 6. On July 13th and 14th, you're going to be able to watch some of the best Arena players in the world go head-to-head in Historic and Modern Horizons Limited. There'll be 3 rounds of Draft and 6 rounds of Constructed with a cut to top 8, and these players will be playing for a total prize pool of $200,000. You'll be watching experienced pros like Logan Nettles, Riku Kumagai, and Eduardo Sargelik, playing at the highest levels of Magic possible. Let's say hello to Jim Davis, who is no stranger to competing in both the Pro Tour and the Arena Championship.
My name is Jim Davis. I'm a full-time professional Magic the Gathering player and content creator. The tagline for the Pro Tour is often play the game, see the world. But not everyone can do that. Honestly, it can be a challenge. And the real cool thing with the Arena Champs is you can just be on your couch, on your iPad, in your pajamas, fire up a qualifier and win it. And then play the event from your home. I don't need to worry about travel. So if you have work or school requirements and you can't travel for it, you can be right there and do it, which is super awesome.
Now that we know what Arena Championship 6 will look like, let's go ahead and see what we can expect going into this event. To do that, I'd like to start by checking out the Modern Horizons 3 Pro Tour that just happened at the most recent MagicCon. Thankfully, I was able to go to MagicCon Amsterdam to see what the pros were playing, talk to them about Draft, and the changes that Modern Horizons 3 is bringing to both Modern and Historic. The first obstacle for the championship will be Modern Horizons Draft, and thankfully, we got to see the pros do this exact same format at the Pro Tour. Let's go ahead and see what they think about the format and take a look at some of their best performing decks.
Hey guys, I'm Arno Schmidt. I'm a professional Magic the Gathering player, and I'm here at MagicCon Amsterdam. MH3 is an interesting format. Sure, there's the Riving Chrysalis, red-green, base, Teemo Eldrazi, what have you, as sort of the standout best deck, but you can still find your niches and not just have to go for the Eldrazi archetype in between. For example, what I've really liked doing is just drafting heavy black decks and then moving into a secondary color depending on what gold cards I get. Black has a huge depth in playable cards and sort of lots of synergies, the graveyard recursion, and can really outgrind other people. And then I also like the area auxiliary white aggressive decks. You can combine them with energy in blue-white or in red-white or green-white for the whole counter synergy to just end the game very quickly and put a ton of pressure on. So Modern Horizons has a lot of variety, and that's what I love about the format.
Now that we've had some wonderful insight from Arna, let's take a look at some of the deck lists from the Modern Horizons 3 Pro Tour that did get that elusive 3-0. And we're going to start with Ken Yukihiro. Now this is a 4-color deck, and there are a few things that jump out at me right away. Arna actually mentioned the Writhing Chrysalis. This is far and away the best performing common in the set. Another thing that kind of stands out to me, it's a bit of a quirky splash, is the Essence Reliquary. This is the kind of card that a weaker player might pass up, but taking a look at the deck, you can see how much value this card will bring. Ken can bounce lands to get additional triggers from Royal Cartographer. They can bounce the modal lands to get to use them. You can make extra goblins from Spawn Gang. The value engine is limitless. And speaking of value engines, we also have 6. An incredible card that's going to get you so much more value. Ken Yukihiro put together an amazing deck that I'm sure was not the easiest to pilot. Next up, let's go ahead and take a look at Seth Manfield's lists. This one is a little bit more straightforward. We've got some top-end bombs like Kappa Cannoneer and Ashling Flame Dancer. These are incredibly powerful cards that can win games on their own. But it's also important to note that Seth doesn't even need these cards. We've got Izzet Genitorium and Phyrexian Ironworks that are going to put in so much work in the energy deck. And if that wasn't enough, we've also got Guide of Souls, which is got to be one of the biggest bombs that you can have in this sort of deck. Jeskai Energy has been by far my favorite and highest performing archetype, and I'm not surprised that this got the 3-0 at the Pro Tour. And finally, let's take a look at one more. We've got Johnny Gutman, who drafted a slightly more straightforward deck, good old Boros. So one of the biggest archetypes is Eldrazi, and a lot of like 3, 4, even 5 color sort of good stuff mesh decks that rely a lot on tapped lands. So it's nice to see that Boros can sort of still get a 3-0, take advantage of those slower decks, and that's exactly what Gutman is doing here. The overall curve is incredibly low, and we've got powerful creatures like Nyxborn Unicorn that are going to snowball out of control and get some very early aggressive wins. While your opponent is busy trying to count to 8, you've already won the game. And that's another amazing 3-0 list from Johnny Gutman. Now that we've gotten the chance to check out these 3-0 draft lists, let's go ahead and talk about Constructed. To start, let's check in with Magic Hall of Famer Reed Duke.
How much do you think Modern Horizons shook up the format?
Well, if you look at the decks that showed up in the Pro Tour, almost none of them existed in their current form a month ago. So it's for a format that tends to change pretty slowly, Modern Horizons was like a massive upheaval. So many cards where the power level is just pushed through the roof that I would definitely expect it to be a defining factor of the Arena Championship.
Next up, let's go ahead and take a look at those new deck lists that showed up at the Pro Tour that Reed was talking about. We have Bant Nadu, Ruby Storm, and Jeskai Control as our top 3 decks played at the PT, but they didn't necessarily have the highest win rate. That goes to Mono Black Grief, then Bant Nadu, and then Boros Energy. But it's important to remember that the Pro Tour was not historic. This was a modern format, and while there is a lot of overlap, there is a lot of differences as well. For example, even though Bant Nadu was the most played deck, we expect it to take a huge hit moving into Historic, because it's going to lose a lot of its enablers like Shuko and Endurance. Let's go ahead and check in with Jim Davis about how the meta will change moving into Historic.
I've been referred to on my stream before as the mayor of Historic. I absolutely adore the format. I think Historic is this perfect kind of brewer's paradise where they can really carefully curate the experience. You know, one of the things about Historic has been kind of avoiding the ubiquity of things, you know, where like the cards like Lightning Bolt and Ragavan, you know, cards that are super staples are kind of either toned down or removed from the format to kind of keep an openness. So Modern Horizons are in the format. We have the Flares pre-banned, so kind of being aware of the fact that Modern Horizon sets are really powerful. But there are a lot of powerful cards available. All the energy cards are excellent. Ugin's Labyrinth's very powerful. Necro Dominance, just a lot of really good cards. And you could almost build like the Boros energy deck in Modern in Historic at this point, which is really awesome, but a little scary too, you know, as far as the shakeup as the format goes. So I'm excited to see how it shakes out. It is going to be a big deal going forward, and it's going to be a huge thing in the Arena Championship as well.
Another interesting point is that Boros Energy didn't see a ton of play at the Pro Tour, but it had a very high win rate. So we expect to see a lot more of it going into Arena Championship.
Yeah, I think Historic is going to be shaken up by Modern Horizons 3. I've already seen Ash Lizzle on Twitter and on YouTube crushing with the Boros Energy deck. That's sort of, I guess, the straightaway strongest deck in the format now.
It's also important to recognize the decks that see play in Historic, but not in Modern. You've got Kethis, Green Devotion, Izzet Wizards, and so many more. These decks are able to thrive, either due to Historic's rebalancing, or cards that they have access to that Modern doesn't, or vice versa. Cards that might be stopping the deck in Modern, but aren't available in Historic. Now that we've gone over all the formats and decks you'll see this weekend, it's time to wrap things up with a few last-minute pieces of advice from today's guests.
The best advice to give is actually to try to play your best Magic and not try to get good results. Usually people focus more on everything except like just the fact of playing good Magic. So you have to sit at the table and try to do your best in the game, and the rest will come by itself.
Find players who are better than you, because the best way to learn how to play Magic better is to just play Magic with stronger players, because you're just going to learn a lot.
Just, you know, there's always going to be another tournament. That's always what I say when someone, you know, doesn't do great. And I always tell them, hey, there's always the next one. Don't worry about it too much. Don't put too high expectations on yourself. Just enjoy it. If it's your first time, enjoy it. Take the experience, learn everything. And just don't stress it too much.
And that's everything you need to know about the upcoming Arena Championship. Make sure to tune in this weekend, July 13th and 14th, on the Magic Twitch channel so you don't miss any of the action. And don't forget to check out Modern Horizons 3 for yourself by playing some Historic or getting into an Arena draft.